Hi everyone, it's Miss Celeste here, and we are in week 2, part 5 of our clips and course objectives that we are focusing on in this course. Before I get started though, just making sure that we are well prepared to complete the discussion, the replies, the journals, and the assignment. And each of these do have due dates. I've mentioned them last week, so I don't need to go over, them in much detail, but just making sure that we are collaborating among our replies for a discussion on separate days, specifically just to make sure that we are asking great questions and just kind of having that conversation as often as possible. And then, of course, just getting familiar with, the details of the practicum, asking your questions if you haven't already, and just really getting prepared to start that. I do need your school locations and the details specifying your supervisor, and then also the location, the name, the contact info, just so I can approve it, and then you can get started on collecting those hours. So just make sure that you get my approval before you start doing the practicum. All right, so let's get started. So today we're going to talk a little bit about understanding signs of autonomy and the benefits. But I am going to first take it back a little bit and talk about what autonomy is. What are the signs of autonomy that you should be looking for when children are going through this process? And what are the benefits, when children are able to explore their environment freely and experience autonomy? So the words the theorists use are labeled is to label the process are seeking autonomy, separating, individualizing. As experts are willing to conclude that the behaviors associated with this stage are sometimes difficult, probably for many reasons, because children are exploring and really trying new things, and possibly sometimes things that are a bit dangerous. Just kind of depends on the child, right? And the risk factor that they're wanting to get to. And so, of course, it can be a little nerve-wracking, right, for parents or teachers. But it's important that they're able to kind of experience different environments. And also that is their way of learning through that hands-on experience. So what is autonomy? So autonomy is a person's ability to be self-sufficient, acting on their desires, values, and interests. Autonomy in child development lets children know they have control over themselves and their decisions. According to Erickson's stage of development, a sense of autonomy develops during the toddler years. So that's about 18 months to 3 years old. Examples of autonomy in children include toilet training, picking out their clothes, deciding what food they like or don't like, and choosing which toys to play with. There are many benefits to children's autonomy that help build their self-esteem and confidence. So when they are able to, be independent and self-sufficient, they're able to explore and be excited, during that process of exploring. And it also builds, upon their self-confidence and self-esteem that we definitely want to establish very, very young in children. But what are the signs of autonomy? Well, the most noticeable toddler behaviors are exploration, their self-help skills, and a sense of possession, really. The toddler behaviors that can be the most worrisome but important is negatively as a toddler finds his power and defends himself or herself for that matter as an individual. But even this behavior also leads to the goals of being a successful member of society who is also a strong individual. So, as much as we want them to, again, be self sufficient, have that sense of self, and know what they're, definitely capable of doing, and also understanding areas that they need some support in, we want them to be strong and confident, but also respectful, right? But that's also part of that process. That's where we're also giving reminders during that process whenever those reminders are needed. Authors also will explore with their hands and use their own senses as well, right? So that's how children learn. All children learn. Giving something new, they may bang it or smell it, or try to pull it apart, or even maybe throw it, or even taste it for that matter. They're just like little scientists, right? They want to explore everything about something new. And again, that's using all their senses. And that is a normal behavior that children go through. But what are the signs of autonomy? Well, I have this little diagram here, example that I got from our text that we're reading. It can be located on page 46, figure 3.2. I really like the way that they specialized in the self-help area, because I really think that we need to value that a little more. We need to talk about that a little more. We have to allow children to help themselves and learn, through their experiences by doing, what they need through their own process. So the goals for families that value independence is on one side. And then the other side are goals of families that value interdependence. So going back to the left side, so goals for families that value independence. So that's, they value the child as an individual. The child is unique and special. The child develops self-determination, and the child becomes self-reliant. Now, families who value interdependence believe that the child is part of a group. Children learn to establish and keep connections, and children learn to accept help, kindly and generously, right? And also children learn to help others. So I think together we want children to be self-reliant. We want children to value their uniqueness and their special skills. But most importantly, we want them to be valued as an individual, which is very much important, and why we should blend the two areas together within our classroom environment as teachers and also as parents, because we really want that self-help skill to be refined over time. But in order for that to happen, we have to allow children to go through that process of experimenting and trying new things and being excited about it, and through that hands-on exploration, which is a whole meaningful experience in itself. And so I encourage you to have opportunities within your classroom to allow children to do that, and also encourage parents at home to allow them to help more, around the house or for themselves, or clean up just simple tasks, as in, clean up after yourself, clean up your toys, or brush your teeth, or, pick out your clothes. I mean, just little things can go such a long way. So think about that on ways that you can kind of incorporate that. But when children use their self-help skills and are allowed to exercise their independence, they get to learn more concepts in the process, as I mentioned. Some cultural differences may differ in these areas, as some parents feel they need to do more or less for their children. So again, it just depends, on the parent. So we definitely have to also be respectful of that, right? So what I encourage you to do is kind of build that connection with the parent, as I mentioned before, get to understand how they parent and why, and I would say most of the time they love to share their process, because mostly they want you to follow it. Um, because they feel there's a reason, right, of why we do things. Just like as teachers, there's a process and reasons why we do things. But it's important to really learn how they move things for many reasons. The child has been within that environment their whole life, right? So it's great to get familiar with what the child processes, environment looks like, right? To also support them within your environment. But we really want, to develop a sense of self. We want to improve the confidence, right? So that's what self-help skills, really support. Commend over their minds and bodies, to really have control and within the process, right? They want to encourage that critical thinking support, because again, throughout life, they're going to need to use that in order to get through challenges, just in general. Self-motivation, we want them to be their own cheerleader, as I say, their own motivator, their own, but they also have to understand their capabilities, and they have to be excited about trying new things. So, when we have new experiences, it's very, very important on how we also model through that process. So just remember that every time you're in that environment around those children, you are modeling. You are, they're watching everything you're doing, every face expression, every tone, just everything. To also get some feedback of how you feel. So just make sure that you're also incorporating your own self-motivation and confidence, throughout that process. And then of course, increased, responsibility. But in order, to have that responsibility, they have to establish that sense of self, that sense of confidence, right, within themselves in order to take on a responsibility. So again, this is all a process, and things that you definitely can encourage within your classroom by simply letting children be part of preparing that environment, preparing that lesson, taking care of that environment, such as cleaning up or helping a friend. There's just many opportunities that can happen throughout the day that you can support and encourage. So before we go, though, I just want to say thank you so much. If you have any questions, please send me an email, or I will see you in our live sessions. Or, of course, we can meet more one-on-one and we can connect there. But until I see you again, have a great day, and I will see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.